Aaron Torres is with us, host of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast, Fox Sports Radio, Kentucky Sports Radio. It is his time of the year. AT, how's it going, man? I know you're fired up for Sweet 16, Elite 8, and this is the last day in the run-up to it.
Phil, let me ask you a question. When you woke up this morning, did you think you would be breaking down Marquette basketball? How about that lead in?
I know. No kidding. No, I really only thought because I'm at the Mississippi State Baseball Park. Arkansas and Mississippi State open a series tonight. That's 1 versus 2.
That's a big one, right?
Oh, it's going to be great. Going to be great. And then I open up ESPN.com today, and that is the first thing that I see is that Smart, who I didn't think he was under the gun necessarily after the loss to Abilene Christian, but was this a preemptive move, do you think, on his part, or is this a guy that's trying to get back home and out of the shadows of the football team and over to a school that doesn't have football? What do you make out of this?
No, I do think it was a preemptive move, Bill, and know nothing college baseball, but I know my Hogs are great. And I know they made a big documentary about Mississippi State and how much that school cares about its baseball team. So enjoy that one this weekend. So, Shaka, here's the deal. I feel pretty confident saying that if there had been no pandemic, he would have been fired last year. And the backstory there, for people who don't remember, they went about 3 weeks after the season ended or was really canceled before they made an official announcement about his future. And if you remember, the big reason was, it's hard to remember this now, but, really last March and April, nobody was going anywhere. I mean, and so the idea of crossing state lines to do interviews and getting people into Austin was never realistic because of the fact that hello. Sorry, that was my in-laws there. So they say hello. So my in-laws were just on. I was just sneaking out of the house, but So anyway, Shaka. So nobody was doing interviews at this time last year, and also I would say this, guys, on Texas is, if you remember how the football hire was done, it was really under the cloak of darkness. Tom Herman is out, Steve Sarkisian is in, and so I think they were trying to pull that kind of move last year and couldn't find the candidate. Shaka Smart has a really good year, but guys, after that loss to Abilene Christian, I know that it feels like, okay, you're Texas, this is basketball, but there was going to be a lot of pressure on him coming into 2021, 2022 if he could have survived. So he gets out. He's from Wisconsin, as you said, Phil. As my in-laws just found out, he is now officially headed to Marquette. And, I think it's actually a good move for both. Ironically, I think it reminds me a little bit of the Mike Anderson St. John's deal, where I think it could work well for both sides. It was clearly time for him to get another opportunity. It was clearly time for, I think, Texas to try something else. And now the fascinating question is going to be, who are they going to get?
Yeah, well, I guess it always is, isn't it? And a lot of people in Arkansas are a little nervous that Eric Musselman will get approached and really they'll come hard at by Indiana. Now they'll probably think the same thing about Texas. He's a hot name here.
Let me jump in, guys. I actually do have a question for you on that I'm hoping for some clarification on. Alabama, I thought, did an incredible job of locking down Nate Oates in about early to mid-February when it became clear that, what he was doing was really special and that it was a special season. Now, my dumb question for you is, obviously, I know Arkansas didn't really kind of hit the gas pedal until the middle to the end of February, and the time frame was a little bit different. Is there any thought as to why Hunter Yurichik hasn't gotten this done? I mean, is it on Eric Musselman's part that he's not ready to sign? Is Hunter Yurichik, hesitant to pull the trigger? I mean, because that's a question that Arkansas fans are asking me, and I don't have a great feel for why hasn't Hunter Yurichik taken the Greg Byrne route and really made sure to lock this guy down. And maybe it's on Eric Musselman's side, but I was curious. I'm sure you guys have been talking about it nonstop the last 2 or 3 weeks here.
Well, from what we've been reading about and hearing about, Yurichik has had routine contact with Coach Muss's agent. So I think they're in contact about this very thing. I think they're waiting until the end of the season. But I'm with you. Like now, now's the time, or at least once this run through March, hopefully into April, is over, to lock him up with a big number that you can that would be really difficult to overcome by even any of the real big blue bloods. I'm with you. I don't want to see him go anywhere else. I know there's all this talk about, well, look at what he's got. He's got all these great facilities, and the SEC is fantastic. Money still speaks at the end, doesn't it?
Well, 100%. And, what I would say is this, is that, one, obviously, I think it goes out saying, Eric Musselman is going to be very well compensated in a couple weeks, whether it is at Arkansas or somewhere else. But now I'm with you guys. And I understand Hunter Yurichik wasn't put in the easiest position. I mean, I think it's easy for us to sit here and say, how is this not done, all that stuff. But, again, Alabama really kind of hit their stride probably about the early to middle of January, as opposed to Arkansas, which was really probably the middle to the back end of February. And so I only bring all that up to just very simply say that I get that the time frame was a little bit different, but once you started kind of hitting that run, you have to. And I'm with you, Phil, as I do think that Arkansas has a lot to offer that, I don't know that Indiana really offers that much more that Arkansas can, except for a few more banners in Assembly Hall, a little bit more prestige. But at the end of the day, you still do have to get the deal done, and I'll be interested to see what Hunter Yurichik can do in these coming weeks, because I would also add, by the way, the most interesting thing about that Nate Oates contract, everyone focuses on his actual salary, but he's got a $12 million buyout if he wants to leave this offseason, and so that is why Nate Oates isn't going anywhere in Alabama, and I'll be curious what that number ends up being with Eric Musselman, assuming that it gets done, because that's the key number to make sure that other schools can't get involved, not just the salary, but the buyout to even negotiate with them.
Aaron Torres joining us here, on Halftime AT. I think one of the big reasons why this contract hadn't been signed yet, I think you're kind of waiting to see how this Razorback basketball season turns out. You're sitting in the Sweet 16, first time in 25 years. You got a pretty favorable matchup against Oral Roberts, a team you've already beaten by 10. What's your outlook? Do you think this Razorback team, and obviously if they win, they meet the winner of Baylor versus Villanova, in your mind, can this team get to a Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you got to get through this game first against Oral Roberts. I feel pretty good about it, not just because it's Oral Roberts, not just because Arkansas beat them, but I think once you get to this point in the tournament, you have a respect for your opponent no matter what seed it is. Now, once you get past Oral Roberts, look, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Arkansas is going to be an underdog if they face Baylor, and with good reason. I mean, Baylor has been awesome all year. They're the best three-point shooting team in college basketball. They're one of the best defensive teams in college basketball. But it's not inconceivable. I mean, this is a team that beat Alabama a few weeks ago. Alabama is another team that's trending towards a potential Elite Eight, Final Four type team. And so, you look at what this Arkansas team has done over the totality of the season. I mean, I don't think it's inconceivable at all. I mean, I think first thing, Matt, you got to focus on Oral Roberts, because I know it's easy for the fan base to look past them. But I'm telling you, I know how coaches and teams work, and I don't believe that Arkansas will look past Oral Roberts tomorrow. Then, frankly, you kind of got to hope, hey, I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying you can't beat Baylor, but it would obviously make the path easier if Villanova could pull off the upset. So, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, Matt. I do expect Arkansas to be in the Elite Eight, and if they do get there, I think it'll be a challenging game with Baylor.
Want to look ahead just a little bit post-NCAA tournament, and you're starting to see some of these big college basketball names start to transfer out. Probably the bigger one that a lot of the fans here will recognize, Xavier Pinion from Missouri. Is there any names out there that you think could benefit? We talked a lot during the summer of like Vance Jackson coming to Arkansas, Jalen Tate. Obviously, Justin Smith has benefited probably the most from coming from Indiana to Arkansas. Of these transfers that we know of so far, is there one guy in your mind that would really benefit, specifically being coached under Eric Musselman, kind of seeing the fruits of the labor that Justin Smith put in?
Well, Matt, I think, first of all, that last point is maybe the most important. It's always one thing to have success in other places, but now that Coach Muss can show the blueprint of what this program did for Justin Smith, I think it's going to be huge. It's going to be crazy. What I'll say about that, Matt, is I won't give any specific names, but instead I'll do the opposite. I actually think Arkansas, they're going to have a problem. They're going to have to be really selective in this process because – I monitor this stuff pretty closely. Me and my team, a couple buddies, we run a website called collegebasketballtransfers.com, and it is blowing up, not only the website, the interest in the website, and the number of quality players that are entering the transfer portal right now. I mean, just this morning, Indiana lost another player, a five-star point guard named Christian Lander, who was a freshman there last year, didn't play a ton of minutes, but a really talented player. And so, look, I think, it's going to be a fun challenge for Coach Muss, but, he's used to coming to Nevada where he's got, he's going up against the Arkansas, the Alabamas, the Michigans, the Michigan States, and having to sell why Nevada's so good. now he is going to be in the position where, one, you're at a Power 5 SEC school, and on top of that, you have a track record, again, of success, not just with Justin Smith, but with J.D. Notte, with Jalen Tate. You know, I'm not going to lie, I kind of whiffed on Vance Jackson. He hasn't produced the way that I was expecting, but, you know, you're going to have to be selective because there will never, I'll say this, I don't believe there will ever be an offseason where we have quite as much talent in the transfer portal because, remember, it's not just all the kids that would normally transfer, but there's a lot of kids that are getting this extra year of eligibility that want to see, you know, who's interested, where they could potentially play. And so as weird as it sounds, Matt, and I know it sounds weird, I almost think you have to be selective. You can't jump in like you've done in years past and say, we'll take the first, you know, available body. And I'm not saying that they haven't been selective in the past. But what I am saying is there is so much talent, and there is going to be so much talent. And by the way, it's now younger guys, too, who know that they probably won't have to sit out for a year, and guys that you can potentially get into your program for 2, maybe 3 years. And so that was a lot of information, but that's my biggest takeaway. You know, this isn't 2 or 3 years ago where the numbers are not as big and the talent isn't as big. There is so much talent in that portal, and I'm curious to see how this program attacks the portal, how selective they are, because there is so much talent this year, Matt, so much talent.
AT, I hope your in-laws don't hate us for separating you out of the house for a moment there. You get along with your in-laws, it seems like, though. That's an achievement. That doesn't happen everywhere.
Well, no, they're great. They had to swing by the house, and I was actually leaving. And Phil, I'll take the listener behind the scenes, but I knew the morning was going to be crazy, and I knew they had to come over at about 10. So that's why we flipped the schedule a little bit. I'm usually on with you guys at about noon Central, 11:30 Central, 9:30 Pacific. But I knew that I had to get some stuff done before they came over. So yes, they love me. They have 2 girls. I'm basically their son. I'm very lucky. You know, listen, I don't want to get all emotional here, guys, but you know, I'm one of the few, you know, like John Rothstein, what does he say? West Virginia tougher than a long weekend with your in-laws. I enjoy being around my in-laws. It's really weird. Like, I think I enjoy spending time around them more than my wife does. So they're great. They don't mind. You know, they said, Aaron, go talk Arkansas basketball. I know it's your passion. Go hang out with Phil, hang out with Matt, give them as much time as you need. We will be here. But Arkansas basketball comes even before your marriage. And I said, wow, that was a surprise there. But, yeah, that's what they told me when I was walking out the door. I swear. That's exactly what they said.
That sounds like they're much nicer.
Unbelievable, right?
Sounds like they're much nicer than Bob Huggins. We'll leave it there, AT. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll hopefully be talking Final Four Friday next week.
Guys, I'm really excited. Go Hogs. I'm excited for you guys to experience this. It's going to be a fun weekend. Matt, lay off the margaritas. It's a late tip, remember, okay? I need you focused, okay?
I got you. Yes, sir.
He's right about that. We're going to be at the Game Day Lodge for halftime in the morning rush, April 5th and April 6th. You got to get a look at this place. It's in Branson, 5 minutes from Table Rock Lake. That's by walking, 10-minute drive to Silver Dollar City. And this is the place to have your entire family, all the guys, maybe a reunion of sorts because, I mean, you can fit 28 people inside this incredible house that has 9 bathrooms, 17 televisions, 19 beds, and stuff like an outdoor basketball court, a fire pit, gas grills, a heated indoor swimming pool. I mean, get a look at it at Game Day Lodge. Search for Game Day Lodge on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.